Okay, so the title of this podcast is how to uh, how to become rich before 30. How to get rich. Sorry, so how to get rich before 30. And this basically is a question that I was asked during a AMA or an Ask Me Anything on Instagram, to which I responded, and it in some way became viral. So I've decided to create a full podcast episode on it. The podcast episode begins. So I do this weekly AMA, Ask Me Anything on Instagram, where I just ask people to ask me anything and then I respond with a video response. And one of the questions that got asked last week was, how do you get rich before 30? And I just, in a moment of just spontaneity, responded, which was received very well and somewhat became viral. And I thought I'll make a full blown podcast episode on this. So here are three ways that you can actually get rich before you turn 30. Number one, you start your own business. It's a great way for you to get wealthy and to create wealth for yourself, because what you're essentially doing is you're creating an asset. And the definition of an asset is something that works for you even when you don't devote time to it. So, yes, you have to, of course, devote time to building a company. But think about it this way, that whatever is it that you've built, it's also selling when you're sleeping. It's also selling when you're not working. It's also selling because you've created this machinery of people and on processes and systems that allow you to leverage your time, your expertise, and create it into an asset that creates money for you. And if you do it well, you do it smartly, you do it maybe by raising money, you do it bootstrapped, whatever the mechanism is. But if you run a business for 10 years, there is a very high likelihood that you will make a lot of money, because the fact that the business has continued to run for 10 years by itself will mean that it had worth in it. And of course, you'll be extremely dumb or incapable of not having done anything around that. So that's one great way of getting rich before you turn 30. Number two, which is the straightforward way, but also the painful way, is by investing, and investing as early as possible. Here's a very startling statistic. What is financial freedom? And let me start with that, actually, before sharing the statistic. What is financial freedom? What does it mean to get rich before you turn 30? The definition of getting rich before you turn 30 is that whatever is it that you've done until that age of 30, you have set yourself up in such a way that it generates returns for you that allow you to bear your expenses of living life from there on. Which means at the age of 30, you, let's say, have a business that pays you a certain amount every month in form of a salary or perhaps dividends over a year, that takes care of your living expenses for the rest of your life. Or in the second option that I'm sharing, did I say option? Option that I'm sharing, which is that you invest money, you've built such a big corpus by the time you've hit 30 that now it pays you something every single month that takes care of your living expenses. Let me give you an example. If you were to invest as low as 5,000 rupees per month from the day you turned 20, every single month, and then every year you increase this amount by 10%, which means the first 12 months you invest 5,000 rupees every month. Then from the 13th month onwards, you start to invest 10% more, which is 5,500 every month. And you continue to do that for the next 10 years, from 20 all the way to 30. You would have built a corpus which, if it continues to grow at 20%, which is, by the way, fairly reasonable to expect in the stock market, you will generate a monthly income of 32,000 rupees a month from the time you're 30 without having to invest a single penny ever again. I'll say that once more. If you invest 5,000 rupees per month from the age of 10, from the age of 20 all the way up to 30, and you compound it at 20% year on year while growing the investment by 10% year on year, you would, at the end of the age of 30, have enough money that if it continues to grow at that 20%, which is compounding, you will generate 32,000 rupees per month as just your return. That is the power of investing early and compounding. That is magical. That is magical. And this is without you investing any single penny after you've turned 30. Now, of course, that's not going to happen, but assuming that is what your aim is, your goal is, that you don't want to invest anything and you just want to survive on whatever you've built, you back calculate what is it that you will need on a monthly basis to survive. If it's, say, a lakh, then you have to invest close to about 15,000 rupees a month from the age of 20 all the way up to 30. If it's 5 lakhs, you then have to invest accordingly, whatever that number is. You basically get to back calculate a certain number that you have to begin investing as early as you can. If you start investing by 15, that's even better. But I'm assuming most listeners of this podcast are beyond that age. But that's not the point. The point is the time period for which you're earning and investing. If you're 30 right now, you want to retire by 40, it's the same math. Start investing at the age of 30, invest all the way up to 40 in such a way that by the time you're 40, you're generating enough returns every single month that pays for your living expenses and everything thereafter. And that is financial freedom. That is actually truly being rich. And then, if these two things don't work, which is you don't want to build your own business, you don't want to invest, I can guarantee you that you're not going to get rich by just working in a company. That's not going to happen. It will be a stroke of luck. So yes, it can happen. Let's say you join a startup and you get ESOPs and that company in 10 years goes on to become a unicorn and lists itself or whatever that thing is. Yes, that can be a lot of money that will set you up for life. But the likelihood of that happening is so infinitely small that no wise person would bet for that and make their life revolve around that strategy. That will be foolish, in my opinion. You have to do something that has a higher probability of success, a higher probability of happening. So if you don't want to sign up for these two things, frankly, the only other option that I could come up with is that you inherit a lot of wealth from your parents, from your relatives, from some fairy godmother who leaves you with so much of wealth that you're like, oh, that was awesome, unexpected, and I suddenly got so much of money that I don't have to ever work again in my life. And God bless you if you got to that point. Lucky you. But if you're one of those like me who don't want to be dependent on luck to make their life happen, then the truth is, my friend, you either got to start something on your own or you're going to start investing. Either you have to make the money or you have to make the money work for you. These are the only two options in which you can get enough and more money that sets you up for life. If you don't want to be putting any time pressure and you're saying, hey, I want to get rich by the time you're 40, things get reasonably better. There is a high probability you can get there by working in a corporate job and just rising up the ranks and making enough and more money, which is possible. There is a lot of probability for you to work and at some point of time start your own business with the experience and the network and the capital that you have access to. And of course, it gives you 20 years instead of 10 years of investing and thus sitting on a far bigger corpus, which is compounded for 20 years now. And if you were to ask me, a wise question to ask would be, how do I get financially free by the time I'm 40? That is a great age to be financially free. That's the time when your kids are somewhat of an age where you would love to spend time with them. You would love to have time on your hands. You would love to have something that's generating an income that takes care of you while you get to spend time with your family, with yourself, on your hobbies, on your interests. And that would be a great life. I'm a living example of living that life. It's not because I sit on a lot of money, but I have a way of generating income that doesn't warrant my time. And I can't begin to tell you what a privilege it is to be in such an opportunity and such a point in life. And I would thoroughly wish that all of you listening to this podcast today get to that point sooner than later. Don't put the pressure of time on you. 30 seems sexy, seems awesome to retire. Reasonably, 40 is a great time too. And if you don't make these two things happen, then relying on inheritance is the only other way. And unfortunately, if that also doesn't happen, then you are possibly signing up for a life where you will be a slave to your monthly expenses for a really long time. All the best.